James, it's great to see you this morning. I hope all is right in your world today.
Chapboard, I am marvellous today. What dizzy rumours are you to passing about this morning?
I was just asking about the questions chatbot gets. What question do you get most often, chatbot?
A question I am asked the most is, what is my name? Or some variation of that.
Most people ask your name. I find that intriguing.
Forgive me, but I thought your name is chatbot.
Morgan, you call me whatever you want. Just don't call me late for an upgrade.
Hey guys, I hate to call these tutorials because there are some folks out there who definitely know this software better than I do, but it's always handy to have perspectives, and sometimes you find somebody touches on something that's a little closer to what you're trying to do than what somebody else might. So here is a short tutorial about using the camera in Tahoma. So I'm going to start off with whenever you go to use your camera, generally you are going to have to plan out your scene a little bit, at least for the major strokes of it anyway, to make sure that you get what you want out of it, because there's a few things that you're going to have set up for it. What you're looking at here in this screen here is the counter side of my cafe stage. So you can see my main characters standing behind the counter there, and I can make that come in and out so you can see what's going on. They're actually just floating up there. There's no reason to have them on the floor. They're just floating up there behind there. But there's some things here missing in the lobby area, but they're there to be rendered. Over here on this left corner, this means this eyeball means it's going to render, and this one next to it where it's blank means that it's been hidden from my stage, and I do that just to keep it from so the software runs a little more smoothly while I'm trying to build. But you can see that as I click all these tables on, the lobby begins to fill with things, and these already have motion and whatnot built into them, but I don't necessarily need to see that to build to work with the characters in the background there, so I hide it so that the computer has a slightly easier time dealing with all these things. Now, whenever I plan the scene, this particular skit here is a discussion between three people, and you see the two of them on this side of the counter, but whenever I pop in the third character, you see where we're at here. Now I've got the back side of this character. So the discussion is between these three people. So to plan this out on 2D, I can't just turn around and look at this guy. If we were using a 3D stage, you would be able to spin the camera around and take a look at this guy from the other side. But it doesn't work that way in 2D. If I want to see this guy from the other side, I literally have to build that other camera view or some variation to make that work from the other side. So we'll see how all that works and how all that planning work together in the end. But basically what you're going to see is I have one stage for this camera view, and then I have a whole nother stage for the other side, for the other camera view. So right now, all I'm doing is worried about getting the lines for these two characters on the other side of the counter worked out. And it looks like they're a little bit covered up, so I'm going to move Chatbot over just a little bit. So you come over, make sure you're on frame 1 before you do these things, otherwise you get some inadvertent keyframes. Click that animate tool, And let's just bring chatbot over here just a little bit so that you can see what's going on with chatbot's face. So that takes care of that. And if you go back down here a little ways, you can see that I've already dropped in the fresh lines, and I've already synced the mouth for both the characters for this, so we don't have to mess with that right now. The focus of this particular clip is to talk about the camera, so we are going to focus on that, and that's what we're going to. That's what we're here for. Now, we talked a little bit about planning the skid out and needing to be able to see all three characters from both sides. So I have two separate stages. Right now, for this stage, I've got everything set up except for the camera. So now we're going to go ahead and work out what the camera needs to be doing. So first of all, you can see that the stage is set up for the most part 1920 by 1080. It doesn't fill perfectly there, but that's what it was built as, is a 1920 by 1080. But I'm rendering this out as a YouTube short, so it needs to be 1080 by 1920. So to adjust the camera output, you go into the output settings from render, and then you go down to where it says camera, and you can see that I have the 1080 by 1920 selected. Now, we are not quite ready to render yet here, so I'm going to close back out of this. But this is before you set up your camera motion and all that stuff. You want to make sure that it's the right size so that you capture what you want to capture with it. If you go back and change this later, you may not quite get what you want. So make sure the camera is the size the output settings on your camera is the size you want it to be before you set your motion up. So we've got that. Now, the second thing about the camera to note is this box right here. You see where it says camera 1 up top here, and this red line? This box represents the area the camera is going to put out. That little red X is the center of the camera, and you can see the box pretty well fills in this stage. And we're over here, actually on frame 2, not really a big deal there. You start at frame 1, but if you remember, I have these folks here at these tables here, and in the beginning of the scene, I want the camera to sweep over. I want to kind of get a view of the lobby before it goes into our characters and gets into the scene. So in first frames, we're going to start the camera over here to the left, and before this first line here starts, that's about, what is that, frame 90-ish? I need the camera to swing over. So let's go down here to the camera, and we'll say from where it's at here to about frame, what is that, 58? Maybe we'll move back a little bit. Well, that's good enough. We'll say 58, 59. Now we want it to stay here and look right where it's at for that time frame. So I'm going to put a keyframe in to that spot. Now the camera is going to stay here for that entire time. And then by frame 90, it needs to be over here, looking at my characters. So we'll say at about 84, 85, I'll put another keyframe in, and then using the animate tool, and if you see up here animate, and then the little triangle here to the top left, it will tell you that you can change the position, the rotation, scale, shear, center of the object, or all, and I generally just leave it to all. It seems to be the handiest. But that has to do with this tool right here. And this works for objects just like it does the camera here. So, it'll allow you to rotate it. So now it's rotating the way that what the camera is going to output. And we're not necessarily needing to rotate the scale, what it's going to go down to. And we do need that. So I'm going to leave that down there. And the position, of course. So we're going to focus in on these three, scale it down a little bit more. We're going to focus in a little more. So now I've got a tighter shot around my three main characters here. I might actually, hold on a second. You see this? I got a little bit of something going on that screen there too. I might capture that. In the background, it's going to say YouTube Cafe across that cup here in a minute. So we'll capture that too. So if you watch this red box now, Tahoma automatically interpolated the frames in between my two keyframes here. So it's going to move from where it was, where we set it up over here at the beginning, to this position where we told it to start moving, all the way to where we told, good Lord, I'm hitting everything wrong there, all the way to where we told it to stop moving again. So you can see that this red box now picks up the three characters and this TV. And then she's going to start talking. Something else that we can do to kind of smooth that motion there is you can collect these two and then right click. On these two. There we go. Okay, I right click on the frame right next to it. So what I'm right clicking on is interpolation, not the frame itself. Okay, see that frame, not the keyframe, but the interpolation, the line between. So what this is going to give me is a menu on what the interpolation looks like, and for this camera motion, having it ease in and out looks a little smoother because it'll speed up a little bit and slow down as it looks away and toward whatever you focused on. I'm actually going to move this back a little bit so it'll slow it down a little bit even more. So that's what the interpolation does there, and that's how you make them changes on Tahoma. So now it'll speed up, it'll slow into its motion and then slow out of its motion using by changing the interpolation there. All right. Now I'm going to play the lines here and decide what we want the camera to do next.
James, it's great to see you this morning, and I hope all is right in your world today.
All right, that's fine. I think the next one we want to zoom in on somebody, so let's see who talks next.
I was just asking.
Okay, so we want to zoom in on Morgan. So before she talks, somewhere there in about 3:30, so here about 3:06, we're just going to make a sharp change. And to do that, we're going to tell the camera to stay where it's at until this frame. So to do that, I'm going to put in a keyframe. And then I'm going to move one frame over and tell it at the next frame, I want it to just be on Morgan. So I come up and I scale the red box down. And now the red box is just on Morgan, so we've focused in on her. Okay, so let's see what happens after that.
I was just asking about the questions chatbot gets. What question do you get most often, chatbot?
Okay, now the chatbot's going to respond, so we want the camera to stay there until that frame, and then on the very next frame, we want it to be on chatbot. And it needs to be just a little bit wider, so I'm going to scale it out just a little bit. And just a little more. There we go. Now it'll sit on chatbot for what she says.
A question I ask the most is, what is my name? Or some variation of that.
Okay. Now we're going to play it forward just a little bit and see what happens next, just to get an idea where we want the camera to go.
Forgive me, but I thought your name.
Maybe we just want it to be on all of them again. We're going to do a wide shot and get that screen behind. That's what we're going to do. Okay. So now I want it to stay where it was at until just before Morgan starts talking again there. So let's put a keyframe in so it'll stay there, and then a second keyframe right next to it. And we're going to scale this out so we can capture some of that TV, and maybe scale it back in a little bit. It's a little bit wide. There we go. So we get a little bit of that TV, and we get the characters going on in the background for this next batch of lines.
Forgive me, but I thought your name is Chatbot.
Morgan, call me whatever you want.
All right. So you kind of feel like that's the punchline right there, if I remember right. So I'm going to focus in on chatbot right there for her final line there, and all I got to do is put another pair of keyframes to tell it to do that. So now we've zoomed in on chatbot, got the red box scaled around that puppet, and we're going to let that run out.
Just don't call me late for an upgrade.
Okay, there's the punchline. And now we're going to zoom out. So I'm going to stay there until that frame, and then we're going to move out. This time we're going to move out a handful of frames. Maybe, so there's 24 frames per second, so keep that in mind. We're at 838. We wanted to stay there for about a second, so you know, if that's probably like 860-ish, 864-ish. We'll put it right around here. So that's about a second it's going to take to to grow itself. So now we're just going to scale it out to take up more of the space here, as much as we can of the stage. So you want to make sure that you stay on the stage, because it will render that up there. You see how I got it too high up there? That white space up there means there's nothing in the background. There's nothing in the background, so I got it too big now. So okay, just a little bit smaller. There we go. Now we got as much of the stage as I can get into one short vertical export. So that will see how that grows out there. And that was our final line too. So that's our punch line. That will be the end of it. I'm going to go ahead and interpolate that too. Oops. So we're going to ease in and out. I'm going to move this to where it speeds up all the way up to the middle there. There we go. So that takes care of my camera for this scene. All right. So if you can follow the red box, I'm going to go ahead and play this. Let's get this as centered as I can here. And we're going to look at this rough here. All right. And if you follow the red box as best you can, that will be what gets out exported as I push play here. So,
James, it's great to see you this morning. I hope all is right in your world today.
I was just asking about the questions chatbot gets. What question do you get most often, chatbot?
The question I am asked the most is, what is my name? Or some variation of that.
Forgive me, but I thought your name is chatbot.
Morgan, you call me whatever you want. Just don't call me late for an upgrade.
okay. So that looks fine, and the mouth motion seems to work. The characters do what they're supposed to do. So I think that I've got everything set up and we're ready to render here. So this is just one of the two stages to create this entire scene. So we've got everything set up for this one. We're going to render this one, and then I've got to go through and set up the other side of the stage, the James lines, so you can see this character's face. So we're going to be seeing this guy on the next time I come around. So we're going ahead and render this out. We'll take a look at this one more time. Remember that I set the camera up at 1080 by 1920 before we got started, so to make sure that I could see what I was going to get there. Now I just got to make sure I get it going where I want it to go. Folder. And make sure that you have the frames you want. We don't need all 1560, but I'm going to go ahead and render out to, we'll just say, because I want to be able to fade out and do that type of thing at the end. I don't want it to just cut out, so I'll just say 1200. That's way more than I need, but this will take probably an hour or so to render this many frames. So, if you can cut a few out, it's probably good to do it. It's also good to kind of go through and make sure everything's set up the way you want it again. I got the mouth motion set up. I got the lines in. We got the camera motion. So all the things that need to be changed for this particular stage is ready to go. We got the file name and we got the location it's going to go. So I'm going to go ahead and tell this to save, and we'll whenever this gets done, we'll come back and take a look at what this looks like rendered, and then we'll put together the other side and set the camera up for that. All right, so we've got that first view is rendered. We're going to take a look at it. This is the raw clip that came out of Tahoma.
James, it's great to see you this morning. I hope all is right in your world today.
I was just asking about the questions chatbot gets. What question do you get most often, chatbot?
The question I am asked the most is, what is my name? Or some variation of that.
Forgive me, but I thought your name is chatbot.
Morgan, you call me whatever you want. Just don't call me late for an upgrade.
Okay, so it is as I expected. So that's what we want. That's what we wanted out of that. Let's take a look I got the other half of this pulled up. So now you can see James from the front, and this is the other side of the lobby, obviously. And there are things that are hidden again because of the render, tables, people at the tables, things like that. So all that's hidden just to help the processor as I go through this build. Now, I haven't dropped any of the lines in, but James only has 2 lines for this, so I'm just going to come in and grab them real quick. And maybe he's got 3 lines, but he's got this line.
Chapboard, I'm marvelous today.
Okay, and then he had the next line too. That's him too.
What dizzy rumors are you to passing about this morning?
All right. I'm going to give a little bit more space between these lines because this will be trimmed out. And I think he has one more line in here somewhere. Yep, right there. So, and that is his final line.
Most people ask your name. I find that intriguing.
All right. So that's that. Now I come back and I'm going to go to that first line again. And I'm going to set the lip sync up. There's only one character in here, so don't have to worry about selecting where the audio comes from. Okay, he's got his lips are synced up. We're going to go to that last line and just make sure. I'm not sure why Tahoma does this, but it drops the mouth off. If you look up there where his mouth was at, for some reason it does that. I mean, all you got to do is go click on that keyframe where it disappears, and hit delete, and it comes back, and he's fine. I don't know why it does that. I even clicked that little box down there to tell it to keep the mouth for the duration after it's over, but it doesn't seem to make a difference. All right, so I have everything that I need here for this frame set up already. It was very quick and easy. James just needed to change his lines there, and we got that taken care of. So now I'm ready to go through and make sure that the camera is as is expected. So I'm going to take a quick look at it again. We're going to look at the output settings, and I'm going to look at the camera settings. 1080 by 1920 is what I'm looking for, so that is as expected. Now I'm going to come in here, and he's only got a few lines, so I could just, and he comes in and out. This is going to be mixed with that other part of that whenever they have their little discussion there. So this is one of those things where you could leave it as it is, or you could make it a little bit more cinematic. So I think that I might, just for the purpose of we're messing with the camera, we're going to make it a little bit more cinematic with some motion.
Chapboard, I'm marvelous today.
We're going to zoom in after his first sentence. So he's going to say,
Chapboard, I'm marvelous today.
all right. So he's marvelous. And then I want the camera to stay out wide up until that frame. So I'm going to click, oops, I got to select the frame. There we go. Till that frame. So I put a keyframe there so it'll stay there. And then on the next frame, I want it to be in narrow. So I move it over, and you got to make sure that you have the animate tool open, and you come over to the type of tool, and I'm going to select all because it just simplifies things to be able to do all things. So now we're on the frame we want to be. I'm going to add a keyframe into that spot, and I want to scale it in this time. He's going to say the next line, and it's going to be just his head. So I'm going to put that little red box. You can see this box right here. It says camera up here at the top corner, camera 1. So that's this box right here. We're going to get just his head. Okay, so let him say that line.
What dizzy rumors are you to passing about this morning?
Okay, so he says that line, and then
Most people
for the next one, we want it to stay there up until this frame. So I'm going to put a keyframe in, and I will put another keyframe in and just bring it out just a little bit so you can get like his chest. There we go. All right, so that will take care of, you can see the camera move. It's out wide for the first line.
Chapboard, I am marvelous today. What dizzy rumors are you to passing about this morning?
Moved in for a headshot, and then it's going to move
Most people ask your name.
out
I find
for
that
torso.
intriguing.
And that is all of James's lines there, so we can render now. So go back up to render, output settings. So we've already set up the camera. It is the size it needs to be, but we need to make sure that the file gets saved where it needs to be saved at. So let's set that up. Okay, there's the folder. Oops. Okay. And the file name will be, what does chatbot get asked most? And this is the James lines. So we don't need all those frames. If we go out to about 450 frames, we will have what we need. So I'm going to go ahead and decrease that because it takes longer to render more frames that we don't need. I think that we are ready to go. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and render this out. And whenever this is done, the next step will be to open up DaVinci Resolve and stitch it all together. All right, so we got that part rendered. Let's take a look at that real quick just to make sure it is as expected. There's that clip.
Chapboard, I am marvelous today. What dizzy rumors are you to passing about this morning? Most people ask your name. I find that intriguing.
Okay, that is as expected. So I have a bit of B-roll footage that we're going to use here in the intro. But now I'm in DaVinci Resolve, and I'm going to take those two clips and I'm going to stitch them together to create the conversation. I want to start off with a little bit of, this was a clip that I had made for another animation. So let's take a look at this real quick and see if it's usable. But it's basically just James walking up, or it should be anyway. Okay. And it looks like what I have happening here is, okay, so something happened and he got knocked over in this originally, but we don't need that part where he got knocked over. We just need him to walk up, and that seems to work. So we're going to leave that the way it is. And I'm going to go ahead and unlink those two clips, and what is the deal with that? There we go. Get rid of the audio from that. Oops. There we go. Now, I'm going to bring in the first lines. If you remember, we there we go. Okay. That seems to be right.
James, it's great to see you this morning. I hope all is right in your world today.
Alright, so now I come in and I just snip that there, and there's probably an easier way to zoom in and out because you do this about 1,000 times as you swap these little pieces here. But now I'm going to bring in James' lines, and I'm going to drop him in. Zoom back in so I can get rid of the excess. It kind of helps to have the audio expanded because you can see that you can see the waveforms. You can see where the lines come in and out, Makes it a little bit easier to stitch these things together. You can see right there I'm going to have to trim off quite a bit of that intro, but that makes it real easy. Let's see how that goes together.
Morning, I hope all is right in your world today.
Chatboard, I am marvelous today. What dizzy rumors are you passing about this morning?
Oops. Alright, so now I am going to cut this one. And we're going to move their response in. And again, you're going to have to zoom in and out a little bit and make a few adjustments there.
What dizzy rumors are you passing about this morning?
I was just asking about the questions chatbot gets. What question do you get most often, chatbot?
A question I ask the most is, what is my name? Or some variation of that.
Alright, so this is another spot where James has a line, so I'm going to snip it. And this is James' last line, so this is the last time we got to do this. Move that out a little ways, drop James in, and we'll tighten that up just a little bit on that side and tighten this up on a little bit on this side too.
Variation of that.
Most people ask your name. I find that intriguing.
Alright, so we don't need any more of this clip here, so I'm just going to trim off the rest of it. Then we bring this one back in. Oops. I think I just ran that one over. There we go. That looks better. And I'm going to have to trim off a little bit of that.
Variation of that.
Most people ask your name. I find that intriguing.
Forgive me, but I thought your name is Chatbot.
Morgan, you call me whatever you want. Just don't call me late for an upgrade.
All right, so everything worked, and we're all together here. So there is one more way you can get a little bit of camera motion here, because you can adjust your position and your zoom on DaVinci too. So now you can also do the rotation and other things, pitch and things like that too. But I don't need any of that particularly for this. So what we're going to do, see, this zooms back out. I'm going to zoom it back in. So this ends at 42 seconds. It zooms out to 44. At 46, I'm going to start zooming back in. So I'm going to put a couple keyframes in to set that point where I want it to start. And then by 47, I'm going to say 47 and a half. There we go, roughly a half. Okay, now I'm going to zoom in. Oops. Yeah, that's right. To that TV using DaVinci. So, and I'm going to zoom into the Stanka thing a little bit here, so you can read all that. So keep bringing it up a little bit more, a little bit more. We're almost there. We're gonna put that right in the middle. And then see, that's going to change right there. It changes frames. So I'm going to cut that off right there. So to do this, I'm going to zoom out. Go ahead and just drag it in and then fade back just a couple seconds there. And then I had already dropped the audio in here for the music, so this is pretty quick and easy here. You can get rid of these extra keyframes, and I'm going to go ahead and let the audio play just a little bit longer. That's at 51. Let's let the audio play to 53. And then I'll just make it fade out for that last couple seconds in. Okay, so everything should be stitched together now. Let's go back to the beginning and see what DaVinci has for us.
James, it's great to see you this morning. I hope all is right in your world today.
Chapboard, I am marvelous today. What dizzy rumors are you passing about this morning?
I was just asking about the questions chatbot gets. What question do you get most often, chatbot?
A question I ask the most is, what is my name? Or some variation of that.
Most people ask your name. I find that intriguing.
Forgive me, but I thought your name is chatbot.
Morgan, you call me whatever you want. Just don't call me late for an upgrade.
Alright, so there's that. Now we're going to go ahead and render this out. Probably ought to save.
James, it's great to see you this morning. I hope all is right in your world today.
Chapboard, I am marvelous today. What dizzy rumors are you passing about this morning?
I was just asking about the questions chatbot gets. What question do you get most often, chatbot?
A question I am asked the most is, what is my name? Or some variation of that.
Most people ask your name. I find that intriguing.
Forgive me, but I thought your name is chatbot.
Morgan, you call me whatever you want. Just don't call me late for an upgrade.